This film is produced for the international training program Locally Controlled Forest Restoration, a governance and market-oriented approach to resilient landscapes, LoCoFoRest. The program is set against the background of how Sweden over the past century developed from one of the poorest countries in Europe to a modern, industrial and democratic state. One of the key contributing factors to that transition was that degraded and deforested regions were reforested, and those wood resources have enabled the development of a prosperous forest industry. The world is developing, and local or national contexts differ in many ways. However, we can discuss the various drivers in Sweden that made the forest come back at the same time as we used it for a growing industrial sector. In this film, we focus on some of the key actors in the Swedish forest sector today. We will hear their visions for the Swedish forest, their driving forces and management strategies, as well as how Sweden's history of development has influenced them. The forest smallholders are especially interesting, as they see the role as a continuum of having been central for restoring forests historically. Hopefully, they will inspire you and ignite ideas and raise questions you want to discuss during the program, such as what changes are needed in your countries to promote a successful forest sector development. We start close to the end consumers with an architect and an industry-leading house developer company. Then we'll meet two of the 320,000 family farmers and smallholders in Sweden, as well as two representatives of the government forest management. First, let's meet P, a visionary architect based in Stockholm, who promotes the use of wood in housing architecture for both economic and environmental reasons.
My name is P. Ekblom and I'm an architect and co-founder of Gaia Architecture. It sprung from a belief that architecture has to be a driving force in healing the ecosystems, basically. Architects has the ability to see the entire chain and work with the entire systems as generalists. Timber is a light material, it's renewable as we know, it embeds the carbon if it's used in structures for a very long time. I mean, it's aesthetically very nice, it affects our brain in a positive way. It's tactile, it's a warm material, and it has a scale embedded, so we experience the material differently depending on what distance we have to the material, which is very interesting. I mean, that's something that appeals to us. I think it's very important to develop the business model that drives more sustainable forestry. There's huge opportunities for innovation here. We can work with different tree species when we prescribe. For example, demanding a more varied forest and with higher biodiversity and a more resilient forest. And we can also work with techniques and develop techniques together with constructional engineers that is efficient in terms of material use.
A new wood-based construction technique being used more and more in Sweden today is CLT. Can you tell us more about that?
So CLT is short for cross-laminated timber. It's the first material since the concrete elements that works as bearing structure both as slabs and vertical bearing walls. And that's revolutionary. As we can see, we can now build very high structures in timber because this material is so useful and also easy to prefabricate. It's also much lighter than the concrete elements, so you can actually fill up an entire truck with CLT elements, and so you get less transportation, and it's easy to assemble at site with just a drilling machine, basically. The forest is not just a timber plantage. It does so much for our existence and for the earth, for the water chains, for the agriculture, for the recreation. We know the forest has a stress relief effect on our brain. I mean, we are connected, so to re-establish that connection is important, I think.
Some great points from P. And now time to hear from the people who turn architect ideas into reality, the house developers.
My name is Anna and I'm coming from Folkhem. So welcome to our building site of the cedar houses. I'm working as an operating manager of Folkem. And Folkem is a developer of housing projects. We already in 2012 made a decision only to work with wood. And the reason for that was the climate aspect. CLT is the material, the system that we construct these houses out of. It's a fantastic opportunity for decreasing the number of trucks that we have to take into the city. And it's also very strong, so we can build here, we make 11 stories. This is our showroom apartment. This is our business model, working with wood and timber houses. The positive climate aspect of building with wood is, of course, that we are using a material that we don't have to construct. I mean, we are using the only material that is also growing back. But also timber has this carbon storage effect, and we keep it, I mean, for 100 years, and then we can also plant new trees while using this. It's the best way of making the forest last longer in that sense. As a developer, we actually have two customers, municipalities that is selling the land to us for our projects, and we also have the customers that is buying apartments and moving into the houses. And we need an offer, a business model, and that are attractive to both of them. We see that the municipalities now have in their procurements a demand for us to decrease the carbon footprint. And we also see that the same numbers and the same arguments are very attractive to the customers actually buying apartments. All the materials for these houses are coming from certified wood. By using FSC certified wood, we also are secure that the ecological and the social system is cared for. I am working at Folkem because I truly believe that this is the future way of building. I'm doing it because I have kids and I have to feel that I'm actually contributing in a difference.
Sustainably produced wood is increasingly requested in the Swedish market. Let's find out how it's produced by visiting two private forest owners. First, we meet a female forest owner in southern Sweden who strives for a mosaic of forest stands on her property for both economic, social and ecological reasons.
Welcome to Salshult. My name is Cecilia Malmqvist. I'm the steward of this property since 1990. It's about 430 hectares altogether. 350 is forests. It's been the same family who owned this land since 1696. We have old maps from late 1700s and also from 1825. And it's very obvious that all the land is used for grazing and for farming. Around 1900, about 50% of the population here emigrated to the United States. After that, the forest slowly reclaimed the land. Now I have an aim to create forests that are ecological, sustainable, but still also produce high-value timber that produce well-being for humans and a lot of other ecosystem services as well. I have an idea that it's good to have like a mosaic of different kind of stands. The main strategy is to let the site condition lead us to how we should use the forest and to manage the forest, or if we should let it be unmanaged and left for nature conservation. I also try to foresee what is coming in the future. And one big thing that we have to adapt to is the climate change.
It sounds like you have a lot of freedom for how to manage your forest. How is your contact with the responsible Swedish authority, the Swedish Forest Agency?
Nowadays, the contacts that I have with the Swedish Forest Agency is mainly when I'm planning a final felling.
As we've heard, Cecilia is an experienced forest manager. But let's hear from a representative from the Swedish Forest Agency. What is the Swedish government's role?
I'm Anna Runesson and I work for the Swedish Forest Authority. We are looking after that the forest owner is following the forest law, and we are also providing extension services. The tools that we use for supervision is a lot of it is based on GIS, a very lot of different maps, layers of maps that we can put together, and then we can use the IT equipment that we have. And we look at these pictures and we can in fact see if someone has done a clear cutting without permission. We can also see if there has been a storm damage or the beetles has killed a lot of trees. The questions that we get now, most of them are about different ways of forestry, so to avoid clear cutting due to ecological reasons and environmental. And they are also asking about re-wetting forestry to get a different nature, get it back to what it was before.
There is a great interest in Sweden to avoid clear cutting and instead cut selectively to promote mixed-age stands. Is this supported by the government? Are there incentives for this or other aspects of managing for ecological sustainability?
So there are quite a range of possibilities to get economic help to do other things than clear cutting.
Thank you, Anna. Let's turn back to Cecilia.
I think the best way to learn something new, to get the courage to do new things, is to discuss your ideas with other people. So that's one of the reasons I'm so glad that there are these possibilities in, for example, the Forest Owner Association called Spillkråkan, an association for women forest owners. A lot of forest owners get together. They actually have a stronger voice. We follow the standards of FSC and PEFC, the certification systems. The reason that we decided to do that is that many rules that they put up in the certification are very similar to the strategies we already had. We get some help in some of the decisions that we make. It makes it somewhat easier to decide what to do, the next step, and how to manage the forest. And I also think that it's actually inevitable to have that standard on the forestry in the future. And I hope even higher ambitions in creating both ecologically, economically and social values. One of the main reasons for us to change species, to try to keep and to higher the diversity on the property, is that it makes us a little less vulnerable for catastrophes or for injuries and for market changes as well. There is a system for independent wood measuring that makes it easy for me as a forest owner to know that I get paid for the right amount of timber. And I think that is a very important base.
Let's move to the southernmost part of Sweden and visit another private forest farm. Lennart has high ambitions to promote a diversity of species and ecological services. But he's also an entrepreneur with high requirements for a profitable business. Therefore, he ensures the production of high-quality oak in his forests, and he has identified and organized a value chain with selected partners for high-value products.
Welcome to this old family farm. It's been in the same family for 10 generations. My name is Lennart Bosrup, and now it's me and my family owning it to hand it over to the next generation. It's almost 100 hectares, mainly forest. It used to be more open land, but that has shifted during the centuries. The forest was very much degraded because of the poverty in this region. People was really starving, and they tried to grow more and more of this poor land. This used to be a meadow, so it was probably the first place that was abandoned as a meadow. And the forest came back naturally with spruce, oak, pine, a lot of different kinds. And it's really resistant to storms, and it's also resistant to diseases of different kind. But even if it's mixed, there is one tree that covers for 80% of my income, and that's the oak. Oak is really suited for growing in a mixed forest. It's important to combine taking care of nature and a good profit, because the profit is really what's driving behind it. "20 years ago, we sold some of our oak timber from this area and got too little paid for it. I took it as a personal offense that if you're not paying more, I will take care of it myself, I decided, and to process it and make nice product. Why not make floor, massive, nice oak floor? And that's how it started. Of course, it was not as easy as I had thought, but thanks to the network of people that can help, our neighbors, forest owners, and we found a guy with a portable sawmill. So in the end, now 20 years later, it's quite a profitable business. We buy locally within a radius of 50 kilometers. It has a good market, a little more exclusive flooring than the normal. The stream is also really close to our heart in the family. I know that we must leave a buffer zone at the shores of the stream.
Thank you, Lennart. Water is a central aspect addressed in the LoCoFoRest program. A forest water counselor from the Forest Agency told us why managing and caring for water in the forest landscape is important, both for forest owners and for the environment.
So, my name is Linnea Jägrud. I am a biologist in the Swedish Forest Agency. Why do we need a freshwater ecologist? The forest and the forestry affects the water, and the water affects the forest. So managing Swedish forests is a part of the Swedish forestry policy and also regulated in the legislation. It is also stated in the Water Framework Directive from European Union. This means that when a forest owner is doing the forestry operations, he or she has to plan the forestry operations and avoid spoiling or damaging the waters. The role of the Swedish Forest Agency is more oriented in advising about the best possible way of managing a forest than to control. The stream hosts a variety of species and support the landscape with ecosystem services. And if we damage the soil, we will export a lot of nutrients, sediment and mercury in the water. And we can see that there are broadleaf trees closer to the stream. This is important because the stream will need a variety of tree species and tree height and also tree age to support the water with the leaf, the shade, the input of dead wood, and to stabilize the stream banks from erosion.
The people in this film have addressed some of the ongoing trends in the Swedish forest sector. These trends are supported by the multiple objectives in Swedish forest policy for societal, environmental and market goals. That policy drives the diversification of tree species and tree ages in the forest, for biodiversity, social values, and to reduce the producer's vulnerability against both market changes and natural hazards. What are your thoughts on this? We look forward to hearing your ideas and reflections, and to discuss possibilities and challenges relevant to the context where you are working. Thank you.